Who's going to like talk a lot about that, but I will tell you my relationship with him was very different than Christine and his is I
It didn't begin with shouting. It began with silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that cradles a cup of coffee or wraps itself around early morning pages of a novel. No, this was the kind that follows devastation. The silence after something breaks. The kind that makes a home feel like a graveyard of unspoken words. And inside the Brown household in Flagstaff, that silence had settled like dust on forgotten memories. Heavy, suffocating, final, behind. Drawn curtains and carefully edited confessional clips, something was unraveling. Not in some dramatic explosion, but slowly, painfully. And in plain sight. At first, there were whispers, a missed text, a strange voicemail. A look exchanged too long in the background of a scene. And then the whisper turned into a scream you couldn't unhear because it came from a place no parent wants to face. For years, we watched this family morph, bend, and break. We witnessed love rise and collapse under the weight of its own expectations. We saw marriages fracture, loyalties tested, and children grow up in the shadows of a man who claimed to lead them but could barely see them. And through it all, we told ourselves, maybe, just maybe, they'd heal. That amidst the wreckage of plural marriage, they'd find something worth saving. But this season, this isn't redemption. This is reckoning. This is a voicemail left in desperation. A final plea buried in the noise of failed relationships. A goodbye no one heard in time. Season 20 isn't just another chapter. It's the gut-wrenching moment when we realize that the silence we romanticized was really a warning. That Garrison Brown, a son, a brother, a soldier, a human being was calling out. And nobody answered. This isn't television drama anymore. This is grief. This is the aftershock of neglect. This is what happens when a boy slips through the cracks while cameras keep rolling. And now we're forced to watch the aftermath. Janelle, shattered. Her voice finally rising from years of polite silence, no longer protecting a man who failed to protect their child. Christine, carrying the weight of the broken pieces with grace, but this time refusing to stitch together what others keep tearing apart. And then there's Meri, the one they pushed aside, the one they ignored. Sitting quietly, staring down. The storm, like she's seen it all before, because she has. And this time she's not looking away. But Cody, he did look away. And Robyn, well, Robyn's hands shake over that wooden table not because of guilt, but because her perfect image is shattering in real time. And when the voicemail surfaced, and Garrison's voice tired, hollow, desperate finally broke through the static. Everything changed. This wasn't a plot twist. It was a funeral. This wasn't a scene. It was a reckoning. And perhaps the most haunting part? The candlelit vigil, where all the siblings stood together, grieving, broken, united. Dan left 2 empty chairs at the front. 2 chairs, reserved for parents who never showed up in the ways that mattered. This isn't just about the Browns anymore. It's about every silent cry that went unanswered. Every child who begged for attention behind the masks of happy homes. Every mother who bit her tongue to keep peace. Every viewer who thought, surely someone will step in, and no one did. This season isn't entertainment, it's a mirror. Held up to every sacrifice that was made in the name of faith, unity, and false love. So buckle in, because what you're about to witness isn't a story. It's the end of a family myth, told not by the man who built it, but by the children who survived it. And it all starts with a voicemail that should have never been the last word. Not the warm, peaceful kind of silence, the kind that greets you in the early morning, wrapping itself around a steaming mug of coffee or drifting across pages of a book you love. No, this was the other kind. The kind that arrives after something irrevocable has happened. It's a kind of silence that replaces conversation with tension, It's the kind that haunts empty rooms and clings to walls like smoke from a fire no one saw coming. Inside the Brown family's once bustling home in Flagstaff, that silence had settled in like fog, heavy, cold, and impossible to ignore. At first, it was subtle. A missing laugh, a text left unanswered, a voicemail played and replayed late, into the night only to be tucked away. The family was splintering, not all at once, but piece by piece, like a structure with a fractured foundation, beautiful from the outside, but crumbling beneath the surface. And while the lights stayed on and the cameras kept rolling, no one said a word. Behind TLC's careful editing and polished confessional shots, something real was falling apart, slowly, tragically, quietly, and then came the moment no one was prepared for. A single sound file, a voicemail, a final plea from a young man who had already been forgotten long before he was gone. Garrison, the boy with the quick wit, the stubborn heart, the military pride. He wasn't just another son in the sea of children. He was the one who fought to be seen and was punished for daring to ask for more. We've watched this family for over a decade. We've seen the highs, the weddings, the births, the celebrations, and we've endured the lows, the betrayals, the separations, the slow erosion of trust. We watched Kody Brown preach unity while practicing favoritism. We watched Robyn cry about being misunderstood while orchestrating her rise to the center. And still, we hoped. We hoped the children would be okay. We hoped the wives would find peace. We hoped that behind the scenes, there was healing. But this season shattered that illusion. Season 20 isn't just a continuation. It's an autopsy of a family, of a faith, of a boy who begged for help and died unheard. This isn't about ratings anymore. This is about reality, the raw, painful kind that doesn't fade when the cameras stop. It's about the price of silence, the cost of being invisible, the weight of being loyal to someone who wasn't loyal to you. Because Garrison wasn't just a casualty of depression. He was a casualty of a system that put image over intimacy, structure over support, obedience over observation. And when his voice finally reached the family in the form of that haunting, desperate voicemail, it wasn't a moment of reconciliation. It was a funeral dirge disguised as a cry for help. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. Because how do you answer a voicemail from the dead? Now, we are watching the aftermath. Janelle wrecked, a mother carrying the unbearable weight of what-ifs, no longer protecting a man who hid behind leadership while abandoning his son. Her voice, once cautious, now cracked open with rage and regret. Her silence broken. Her sorrow, UNCONTAINABLE. Still standing, but now for something deeper than survival. Her face, once the portrait of polite pain, now etched with resolve. She's not here to comfort anymore. She's here to witness, to say out loud what others still whisper in shame. Meri, the forgotten wife, the discarded soul, now sitting with quiet strength, eyes unblinking. She's not the victim anymore. She's the observer. And she's watching everything fall, just as she always knew it would. And then there's Robyn, once the tearful narrator of her own misunderstood sainthood, now trembling behind a kitchen table, clutching denial like a lifeline. Not because she's grieving, but because she knows the world finally sees her. And Kody, the man who demanded obedience and gave nothing in return, the father who called the shots and dodged the bullets, now standing alone in a field of broken promises, wondering how the empire he built on control turned to ash in his hands. 'Cause the truth, he did look away. He did turn his back. And now, it's too late. The most haunting image of all, the candlelight vigil. The children gathered, every sibling who felt the ache. The ones who shared bunk beds, hand-me-downs, and silent disappointments. United not just in grief, but in truth, holding each other. Mourning not just their brother, but the childhoods they were forced to navigate alone. And at the front, 2 chairs, empty, reserved, One for the father who demanded respect but didn't earn it. One for the mother who chose comfort over confrontation. They didn't come, not in the way that mattered. Because this season isn't about polygamy anymore. It's not about sister wives. It's not even about marriage or divorce. It's about the children. It's the ones who were used as props in a failed experiment. The ones who grew up under pressure to smile while aching inside. The ones who carried the secrets, the shame, the fear until one of them couldn't anymore. This season isn't entertainment. It's a eulogy, not just for Garrison, but for every child whose cry went unheard, for every mother who bit her tongue for the sake of peace, for every viewer who thought, surely someone will do something, and then watched, as no one did. This season is a mirror, held up to a family that claimed to be whole while falling apart. A spotlight on the dark corners of emotional neglect, disguised as devotion. So if you're watching for drama, think again. This isn't a story. This is a reckoning. It's told not by the adults who built the house, but by the children who had to survive inside it. Okay? And it all begins with a single voicemail. One message that should have never been the last word. It had a face, a name, a date stamp. Just days before Garrison's death, a digital whisper left behind in the form of a voicemail, a draft email. A final message that should have shaken everyone awake, but didn't. The next time the Brown family came together, it wasn't for a birthday, a wedding, or a holiday. It wasn't a reunion. It was a reckoning. A family reassembled not by love, but by grief. And not as cast members of a television show, but as the tattered remains of something once called a family. TLC arranged the space carefully. No soft lighting, no dramatic camera pans. Just a cold clinical room with a plain wooden table. No stage decor, no cozy set. It wasn't a home. It looked like a courtroom, because this time someone had died. And this time, there were no more excuses left to give. Robyn sat at one end of the table, her hands trembling in her lap, clutching themselves like she was holding onto a story she could no longer control. Her eyes darted toward the cameras, then downward. Next to her sat Coda Quiet, withdrawn, slouched in his chair like he wasn't really present. Not emotionally, maybe not even spiritually. Like part of him had already fled the room. Cross. From them sat the other wives, Meri, Christine, Janelle. 3 women who had spent decades surviving the same. Storm 3 women who once bowed their heads in obedience, now lifting their eyes in quiet defiance. There were no greetings, no fake hugs, no nostalgic laughter. Just silence. The kind that screams louder than anything else. It was Meri who spoke first. Her voice low, measured, and sharpened by years of being silence cut through the quiet like a blade. "You said to him it was better this way," she said, each word landing with the weight of a tombstone. "Tell me, Robyn. What did you mean by that?" Robyn's face contorted as if she'd just been struck. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Just air. Just the sound of a person who'd finally realized the narrative she controlled was slipping through her fingers. I didn't mean it like that," Robyn whispered, voice cracking. Meri didn't blink. "You didn't say it. That's the point." Her tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. Because the truth was loud enough. Janelle sat motionless. Not a glance in Robyn's direction. Not even a flicker of sympathy. Her eyes stared downward, as if avoiding eye contact was her final form of protest. Christine sat with arms crossed, tightly, holding herself like she might fall apart if she loosened her grip. Her face was stained with fresh tears, her lips pressed together so tightly they turned white. Then Cody spoke. Not with anger, not with fire, just emptiness. "We didn't know he was that broken," he whispered. That was when the storm broke. Meri's hands slammed against the table. The sound cracked like thunder, sharp, jarring, final. It echoed off the walls like a verdict. We knew. We just decided to look away. And with that, Robyn broke. Not with the practiced tears of confessionals. Not with camera-ready weeping. But with the kind of sobs that come when there's nothing left to spin. Her face crumbled, and her shoulders convulsed in grief. Real or not, no one moved to console her, because in that room, comfort wasn't granted. It had to be earned. And she hadn't. Somewhere beneath the weight of her sobbing, a single sentence from Gabriel's personal message echoed in everyone's head. He needed your love, not your excuses. And now he's dead. That night, Janelle didn't go. Home, she sat in her car for hours, staring through the windshield into nothing. The house was still, but her heart wasn't. It pulsed with rage, with guilt, with helplessness. Later, she started something simple. A group chat. No drama. No press releases. No sides. Just a space to breathe. To grieve. She added all the kids, not just hers. Not just Christine's. Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, Solomon. All were welcome. Number, accusations, no blame. Just the raw, unfiltered presence of mourning. The messages started as quiet hearts. Short, I'm sorries. Small digital acknowledgments of an unspeakable pain. Then came a message from Dayton. Short, devastating, unignorable. Mom. I heard the call too. I can't fake it any longer. An hour later, Aurora messaged, you said things I can't unhear. I used to think people didn't understand you. But now I wonder if I ever did. No one replied. Not Robyn, not Cody, not anyone. A few minutes passed. Then Brianna left the chat, then Solomon. The icons disappeared one by one. Tiny silent exits. Like lights flicking off in an empty house, till only one remained. Robyn, she typed. Stopped, typed again, deleted, no one responded. Not this time. The exits weren't just digital. Dayton moved into student housing across the city. Solomon stayed with one of Cody's sisters while paperwork for a custody shift was finalized. And Aurora, heartbroken, torn, showed up on Christine's doorstep in Utah, suitcases in hand, tears streaking her face. It's Robyn. Robyn was alone. For the first time since joining the Brown family, her house was silent. No laughter, no children fighting over the TV, no chaos. Just an unbearable, echoing stillness. Dust gathered in the corners. The mail piled up. The curtains she used to straighten every morning now drooped, sun-faded and forgotten. She drifted from room to room like a ghost, taunted not by what was said but by what wasn't. There was no screaming, no confrontation, just withdrawal. A quiet judgment more painful than any word. The mirror still reflected the image of a mother. One her children no longer recognized. Janelle hadn't planned to return. But when she saw Aurora collapsed in grief, hysterical on Christine's porch, she knew she had to go back. 'Cause Robyn was already trying to rewrite the story. Already painting herself as the misunderstood matriarch. Already rehearsing the narrative she would cry into the next camera lens. Janelle wouldn't allow it. Not this time. She drove through the Flagstaff night in silence, her hands gripping the steering wheel like a prayer. When she arrived, the door creaked open like the house itself was weary. Inside, Robyn sat slumped over a mug of cold coffee. Her mascara had dried in flakes. Her hair hung in knots. She looked up, stunned. "What are you doing here?" she croaked. Janelle didn't hesitate. "To finish this," she said, "to say what you won't. To make sure you never turn this into another one of your sob stories." Robyn's lips trembled. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Janelle cut in, sharp and steady. "You don't get to play the victim anymore, not after what you said to Garrison, not after what you let Cody become. Every tear you've ever cried was a choice, and every time you were silent, it was part of the plan." The room went still. Janelle walked to the mantel. An old family photo still sat there, smiling faces taken before Robyn had even entered the picture. She pulled a folded note from her pocket and laid it beside the frame. "That's from Aurora. she said softly. "She says she'd come back when you stop lying to yourself." Robyn didn't reach for the paper. She didn't move. It's Janelle. Walked to the door. She paused, looked back once, and then smiled. But it wasn't kindness. It was release. And this time, she didn't look back. It all started with a sentence no sibling should ever read. By disappear? It was the opening line of a draft email, found on Garrison's old laptop, hidden in a folder labeled simply unsent. It wasn't a goodbye. It was a warning, a plea. In that message, Garrison didn't ask for pity. He asked for truth. Don't let them lie about how I felt. Don't let them cry on TV for a version of me they never listened to. At the bottom, he named Janelle as the one he trusted to carry the truth forward. Not Cody, not Robyn. And the final line, I just wanted to be heard. That one sentence became the title of a crusade. Gabriel took the first meeting. The siblings followed. And that was the beginning not of another episode, but of a movement. A breaking of the silence that had swallowed them whole for too long. Because now the silence belongs to Robyn and the truth. The truth belongs to the children who survived it. Foundation. Heard a mental health and veteran care initiative founded in Garrison's memory led by the Brown kids. Madison assisted in developing the board. Logan worked on the logistics and organization. Even Leon returned quietly to assist outreach. Gwen brought her technical expertise. And Janelle, quiet and steady, remained behind them. Observing her children construct something Garrison never had, a space to feel heard together, observed. The memorial began at sundown in Salt Lake City. Over 500 attended, veterans, therapists, family, friends. Each individual lit a single candle, one by one, a spark of remembrance and hope. There was no place set for Cody, none for Robyn. Their absence wasn't mentioned, but the silence did. When Gabriel went to the podium, his voice trembled only once. Just once, more than my brother, he whispered. He was my reflection. He laughed too loudly, loved too much, and bore more than we ever realized. Gabriel's voice trembled a little, but his words pierced the night like a hymn. He asked us to hear, and we did not. But now I will be his voice. The audience stood to their feet, but Gabriel wasn't paying attention. He'd already exited the stage, a candle clutched in his hand, moving slowly toward a small inscription that read, "He was more than the silence." Above him, the sky went a brilliant shade of pink and gold, almost as if Garrison had been heard at last. Folks had shown up, hoping for a gentle panel discussion about healing and resilience. What they received was something different altogether. 800 women remained motionless, holding their breaths as Meri Brown, the very one long depicted as the demure, submissive wife, stepped into her reality and incinerated the entire myth. She didn't shout. She didn't have to. Her serenity cut more deeply than any rage. Her words were plain, measured, and gut-wrenching. "I never was his partner in Flagstaff," she stated, gazing straight into the audience. "By then, I was a prop." And then she took them back, not through time exactly, but through illusion. Back to Vegas. Back to the cooing, glowing cul-de-sac where the dream existed on the outside and cold shadows existed in the house. That's when Robyn began rewriting the story. Meri said it wasn't merely Cody falling in love with her. It was her, talking to him in his ear. "You deserve peace, not chaos." And somehow every one of us turned into the chaos. The crowd shifted. Murmurs is growing stronger now. Meri described how Robyn would carefully mold Cody's feelings prior to family sessions. How she'd cry exactly enough to change the mood. How she turned empathy into a device until Cody had no idea whether he was being loved or controlled. Then there was the moment that drew the air from the room. One evening during dinner, Meri said, "Cody and Robyn smiled at me and said, 'Perhaps it's time you begin calling yourself the family aunt. It would be less confusing. Robyn took a sip of her wine. Meri made her exit and cried in the parking lot for 2 hours. Gasp rippled through the audience. One woman actually yelled, "No," from the back of the room, but Meri didn't flinch. She wanted emotional monopoly, she said, and she got it. But now she's shocked her empire collapsed. That her own kids walked away, that we're all done playing along. The room rose in thunderous applause, a standing ovation with women clapping through their tears. And somewhere in Sedona, Robyn was watching the live stream. She didn't finish it. She turned off her phone. She didn't come out of her room for 3 days because for the first time, Meri wasn't heard. She was believed. And just as the news of Meri's words was starting to sink in, another quake shook. It began with whispers. Whispers of Vent's sealed court document in Cucamonga County. Then a leak, a grainy, blurry PDF. Cody Brown, once the face of a sprawling family empire, had quietly filed for legal divorce from Robyn. But this was not merely a split or the dissolution of a marriage. It was a complete split. Robyn's guardianship of her children, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, was withdrawn, effective as of now. And Robyn, she learned like the rest of the world via forwarded link. She didn't believe it at first. Shaking her hand, she called Cody repeatedly. He didn't pick up. For 3 days, she left him messages, pleading, sobbing, imploring him to tell her what was going on. When he did call back, he sounded far away, cold. Few words were spoken. She attempted to get him to tell her why. He didn't respond. Instead, he spoke softly, almost inaudible. "I hear your voice on that recording every night." Then click the line dropped, and with it all that was left of the love Robyn believed she still felt. What came next wasn't anger, it wasn't denial, it was withdrawal. Her children traumatized by Cody's silence and their mother's collapsing shame. Packed up in silence, no yelling, no tears. Dayton was the last to go. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't even glance over his shoulder. He just put his phone down on the kitchen counter, screen glowing. A message from Aurora stared at him on the screen. "We can't fix this for you." Robyn collapsed to the floor. That house, formerly a place of promises, now just walls resonating with regret. Once she had perfected the script, now it was swallowing her whole. There were no cameras for